what is coevolution? If you've read any sort of biology or zoology type news or information, you might have heard of coevolution, but what actually is it? So coevolution is where two species evolve together. Now, usually we refer to this in terms of a parasite and a host type relationship. So in that type of relationship, one person benefits, the parasite, and one person loses out, the host. But what happens often is the host will try and adapt and evolve to outgrow its parasite, and the parasite will then evolve to meet the needs of its host. So they are evolving sort of together. So one evolves in a way that means that the parasite can't access it anymore, and then the parasite is then forced to evolve to be able to then access its host. So I'll give you an example of coevolution. One example of coevolution is the tick, the beautiful, wonderful creature that is the tick. Don't we all just love them and are so grateful they are still here with us today? Ticks are awful things, let's be honest with ourselves, but they have been co-evolving with mammals since they began and since they discovered the wonderful taste of a mammal. And so the ways in which they have co-evolved, most recently, some of the latest literature says that ticks have produced certain histamines in their saliva, which means that when they sort of bite onto their host species, the host now cannot arm a defense against the tick. So previously, the tick used to inject a certain cocktail of histamines into the mammal, and the mammal has evolved a way of spotting those histamines and basically sort of killing them off and attacking them. And so the tick can no longer feed. But the tick has now co-evolved. So it has now seen that the mammal has got this new sort of way of attacking those histamines, and it's created a whole new cocktail of histamines in order to still be able to eat their prey. They're also very well adapted. Ticks are very well adapted to mammalian hosts by having arms that they will now reach up and put up so that they can grab hold of their hosts as they walk past. So they're not stupid. These evolutionary pathways that these organisms have to go through is absolutely fascinating to think that you have organisms and just things that are happening in the world that are outside of the control. So the tick does not know. It's not going to bite a mammal and be like, oh no, you don't like the taste of me. Okay, no, I'm just going to get off at the next stop and go find someone else. It's just over evolutionary time and biochemistry that they start to adapt and change to each other's changing environments, which I think is absolutely fascinating. Another example, one that's less horrible, so a mutualistic example of coevolution are pollinators and plants. So quite often when we're talking about, we want to encourage our bees and we want to encourage our native bees, we need to be planting our native plants. But why do we need to do that? Okay, the reason we need to do that is because the plants have adapted to be able to be accessible to the native bees. So there are so many different species of bees and other pollinators too. So there's lots of different insects and even some birds that are pollinators. So the plants have adapted to be able to be accessible to their pollinator. So the plant is going to produce a nice sort of sweet liquid that the pollinator can take hold of. And the pollinator in turn is going to cover itself in the pollen and then go and hop to the next plant. So this is a way that we have a mutualistic coevolution that has happened. Native plants have adapted to be able to be accessible to their pollinators, and pollinators have adapted methods and strategies of extracting the drink that they want, whilst also collecting the pollen that they need to pollinate the other plants. And again, this is going on without the knowledge and the thought that these organisms are doing to each other. As far as we know, there is no sort of sentient thought in there. But what if there was? Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the idea of sentience in beings that we didn't think were sentient? So we're starting to look at the use of language in certain other mammalian species. But what if insects had sentience? Have you seen any of the stuff recently about plants that might be a little bit sentient? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about the idea of sentience? And what do you think about the idea of coevolution? And if you could co-evolve with anybody, who would it be? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.